Okay, so what I call this is ethically manipulating the manipulator, really just so that you can learn how to feel freedom in your life and keep the peace. And I mean, in my world, what I call it is learning how to uncondition the conditioning that they've done to you. Because what happens with a narcissist is early on, they start conditioning you. They start to see if you are going to be a good form of supply for them. They need endless amount of supply and you provide that to them. I mean, it's kind of sick, but literally, you are their food, you're their lifeblood, you're their oxygen. You're not really like a person to them in the sense of a healthy relationship. You're really just a source of food or a supply for them. And so, what you are doing here is like unconditioning this conditioning. You're kind of separating that from them. And so it's really a healthy way of getting rid of that. I call it manipulating the narcissist, but it's keeping the peace, but it's also starting to place boundaries. It's also making that shift so that you can start to become more assertive. And, I hear people say all the time when they start to negotiate with narcissists, where they start to make that separation, I don't want to be aggressive, or I don't want to be assertive, or I don't want to fight. If you want any kind of fair settlement, if you want any kind of resolution that looks like something that you might want at all, you're going to have to be. You're never going to get anything you want at all if you don't. And they're never going to leave you alone because remember, they get supply from manipulating you, they get supply from intimidating you. They get supply from jerking you around. So they're never going to leave you alone if you don't. So if you want peace at all, you're going to have to do these kinds of things. Okay. So one of the things that you can do is what I call bartering. Bartering is something that in a normal world is an exchange of goods and services without money. But what I mean in this situation is where you give them a little something of what they want so that you can get a little something of what you want. And what this means is you would say something like you give them what they want, which is adulation, so that you can get something of what you want. So you might say, hey, can you handle the QuickBooks? You're so much better at computer programs and math than I am. And so you'll handle it so much more efficiently than I would. It's something like that. And you would say it completely without any sarcasm, without any kind of reference to you or you being good at anything, because then you're beefing up their ego, which is exactly what they want. Then you'll get something of what you want, which is they handle the QuickBook thing, and then they get what they want, which is the adulation. And you say it without any sarcasm or any tone, because narcissists hear tones like dogs hear whistles. Like, even if there's no tone, they hear tone. I always say, if you need to go shower or vomit later, then go do that. But they get a little something of what they want, and then you get a little something of what you want. So that's one way. Another way of manipulating the narcissist, by the way, number two, is to stay confident. That totally messes with their mind because they don't know what to do with that. Like, what is that about? That totally messes with them. They don't like that because they've gotten used to you being a certain way. So if you're kind of pushing back on them a little bit, that messes with them a little bit sometimes, especially if it's a different way than you've been before. So if you're kind of pushing back on them, or you're more confident than you've been in the past, that will mess with them. So, If it's different and you're not used to this, just say to yourself, I got this. So I just want you to put that in the comments right now. I got this. Put that right now. I got this. Number 3 is allow them to keep talking. They lie a lot. That traps them. It's great for leverage. Let them keep talking. Let them keep writing emails. Let them keep use all that stuff. It is great for leverage. And I talk about that a lot in my Slay program. That is definitely part of the SLAY. You want to use all their lies for building leverage. Makes great leverage. And if you want to know how narcissists respond when you catch them in lies, definitely check out my video on that topic. Number 4, this is difficult for people sometimes, but give them room to hang themselves. So if you are in a situation where you are potentially mediating temporary issues, for example, sometimes people don't want to give them room to hang themselves. Let them, because they will mess up. They will. So give them room to hang themselves. Give them room to mess up. They will. Give them opportunities to not do things that they're supposed to do, even at work or whatever. A lot of times narcissists, especially covert narcissists, are inherently lazy. I had to deal with that with a covert narcissistic business partner, who didn't do what they were supposed to do. Let them have opportunities to where they say there's going to do things, they don't have a whole lot of integrity a lot of times. So, when you give them rope to do things, they oftentimes don't do things they're supposed to do. Those are the great opportunities for, documentation to show that they didn't do what they were saying they were supposed to do. Great leverage. Okay. You can catch them in that stuff. So give them room to hang themselves. That's number 4. And number 5 is ask them for their advice or thoughts on things, especially when you're in negotiations. What do you think about this? What are you thinking on this? Really great, because then you can get their thoughts on what they're thinking, and you can get ideas on their direction and what you think they're thinking for settlement, what resolution. You can get their ideas on how they're thinking about for settlement. Let them come to some ideas, because they're going to be more likely to settle that way. And you can get ideas on what their direction is. So, get them thinking, and it's a way to sort of manipulate them toward where you want them to go. So these are all ways to ethically manipulate the manipulator. And by the way, it gets them talking again. Going back to number 3, get them talking. They lie a lot. Trap them, great for leverage, right? So those are the 5 ways to ethically manipulate the manipulator. And it also helps you to keep the peace. So let's talk about that narcissist. The narcissist is a master manipulator. They have spent their entire lives learning how to manipulate. They are masters at reading people. And if you want to know more about why narcissists are so good at reading people, check out my video on that topic. They are excellent at it, and they have spent their entire lives at it. There was that book, Outliers. I don't know if any of you have ever read that book by Malcolm Gladwell. And he talks about how you need 10,000 hours to become super skilled at something and achieve mastery level. Well, narcissists have way more than 10,000 hours at learning how to manipulate people. They've spent their entire lives learning how to manipulate people. And so Everything they do is a manipulation. Pretty much everything they do is to manipulate you. It's to control you. It's to make you feel devalued. It's to make themselves feel more superior than you. And so they are really, really good at doing that. So how do you manipulate them back? And why would you want to do that? Well, number one is that if you're in a negotiation with a narcissist, you are in the fight of your life. There's no doubt in my mind. They have one goal, and that is to take you down. It's to make your life miserable. It's to control you. It's to make you squirm. That's what they want in the negotiation. And so you are not playing on a level playing field. You, reasonable person, are going, well, I just want what's fair, and maybe we can both come to a reasonable conclusion. Well, maybe there's some way we can sort of meet in the middle or whatever. You cannot do that when you are dealing with a narcissist, because a narcissist doesn't want to come to a reasonable conclusion. They want to make you miserable. They get narcissistic supply from that. So, and remember that narcissistic supply is anything that feeds a narcissist's ego. It's what they need to build themselves up. So they're constantly looking for it. They're like sharks smelling blood in the water. And there's more supply, and there I can get more supply, and there I can get more supply. They're like hoarding it and desperate for it. They are predators. Make no mistake about it. They are predators, and they need an endless amount of narcissistic supply. It's like a black hole that can never be filled. And they get narcissistic supply in a negotiation by making you squirm, by making you miserable. So the only way that you're going to be able to fight back against that is by ethically manipulating the manipulator. And if you are so ready to fight back against that narcissist, give me a fight back right now in the comments. So how do you do that? Well, one of the ways that you can do that is by being prepared and anticipating how they are going to behave, and then not being surprised when they behave like a narcissist. So that when they go off on you, when they call you all sorts of names and say that you're a deadbeat, or say that you're a loser, or whatever verbiage they use that basically says that, you're going to say, oh, I expected you to say that. There you go, being your narky self. Okay, smile and move on. And then if you need to respond to them, you respond very, very tactically. So that is another way that you can ethically manipulate the manipulator, is by responding tactically. In other words, if they send you a long, huge text or a long, huge email filled with vitriol, filled with poison, filled with all sorts of things meant to trigger you, you are going to respond tactically. You are going to look through this email as if you are reading the newspaper or reading a fact sheet or a data sheet, and you're going to go, I don't need to respond to that. I don't need to respond to that. I don't need to respond to that. Oh, that I need to respond to. So you just pick the one or two things in there that you say, okay, I need to respond to that. Like, what time are we doing something? Or when will this take place? Or something like that, some factual thing. And then you respond only to that. And then the rest of it you either ignore, or maybe you say something very, very tactical, like, I'm in receipt of your email, I deny your allegations, and here's my response to the one thing that I need to respond to. So tactical responses is very, very helpful. Another thing that you can do is provide value for value by saying something to the narcissist like, can you handle this financial thing. You're so much better at numbers than I am. Something like that. It's called like narcissistic fluffing. You're sort of fluffing up their ego so that they now feel like you're respecting them in some way. You're giving them adulation in some way. They need an endless amount of adulation. So you can just, give them a little something so that you can get a little something. These are ways that you ethically are manipulating the manipulator. You have to do it in order for you to get anywhere and get something that you want out of this situation. You have to understand that they need to feel like they're getting something out of this. They will not do anything unless they feel like they're getting something out of it. And the last thing that you can do when you're going to negotiate with them is when you present your offer, you just make sure that you're asking for a hell of a lot more than what it is that you're actually wanting. And never let on what the one thing is that you really, really want, or the few things that you really, really want. Act like you really, really want something else. Because that way, if you end up giving up on it, then the narcissist thinks that they got to you. So remember that when you're doing this little game with the narcissist, which unfortunately you have to play this game because that's who they are, you're never going to win by having them know that you won in a certain way, because they'll just keep pushing. They'll keep fighting. Because as long as they feel that there's some amount of supply to be had from you, then they will continue to come back to get it. Even if it's just scraping the bottom of the peanut butter jar, as much as, that's how much narcissistic supply there is left to get from you, they're coming back for it. Because as I said, they are predators. They want to come as much as there's still some kind of food, some kind of something that they can get out of this situation. The only way that you will end up getting them to stop is by letting them know that there's no more supply to be had from you. Have you ever met somebody, they started off to be the most charming, charismatic person you've ever met in your life, then they turned out to be your worst nightmare, and then when you go to negotiate with them, they're a living hell? Well, I developed something called the SLAY method of negotiating with narcissists, and it has helped tens of thousands of people in more than 150 countries win, go from feeling drained and defeated to getting the outcomes they want. And the reason why it works is because I spent more than 20 years studying narcissism as a trial attorney, and now I'm here to help you win too, and also take your suffering and turn it into your superpower. Take your pain and turn it into profit, peace, and purpose as a highly specialized, high conflict negotiation coach. If you want to learn how to do it, then just go to RebeccaZung.com/apply, and I will show you how.
Would you sort of touch on that? So I'm in a business relationship. I can't exit it right now. How do I negotiate and deal with, on all different settings, someone who has one of these forms of narcissism?
Yeah, well, I mean, those are kind of both related with each other. Okay. So, I mean, SLAY is, developing a super strong strategy and creating invincible leverage, anticipating what they're going to be doing, and then focusing on you and your position and your case. And this is if you're having to negotiate with this person. And I call it, and you're ethically manipulating the manipulator throughout the entire process, because these people are master manipulators. I always go back to the Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hour thing, where he talks about how it took 10,000 hours to become good at something. These people, 10,000 hours was like, they hit that at toddler, I mean, they were doing this long ago. They're very good at what they do. They know exactly how to push your buttons. They know exactly how to trigger you. They've been reading you from the beginning. And, so a lot of times people beat themselves up over like, how did I fall into this thing? How did I fall prey to this? Well,
Mhm.
they know how to read you. They know how to, manipulate you. So you have to learn how to take what it is that motivates them, which
Yes.
is their need for narcissistic supply, which is anything that feeds their ego,
Mhm.
and use that to manipulate them in order to create leverage. I mean, this is within the context of
Yes.
actually negotiating with them for people who are negotiating with them.
Well, everything's a negotiation, though. And so every single day, you may have a boss who's got a form of narcissism. And so what she's talking about with Slay is being very aware, right? And being cognizant of, listen, oftentimes there's got to be compliments, there's got to be feeding them, and then sticking in there what you need or that you want. If
Right.
you're not,
So a good example of that, not to cut you off, but
oh,
I
do
want to give
so.
you,
Oh, you want you to, please.
I want to give a good example of what exactly you're talking about. So a good example of that would be something that I call bartering.
Okay.
So bartering in the real world is, an exchange of goods and services, without money. So what does value look like to a narcissist? Well, it's adulation. That is the grade A diamond level supply for
Mhm.
narcissists. So in the narcissism world, supply is what they feed on. It's their lifeblood, it's their food, it's their oxygen, it's anything that feeds their ego. But within that world of narcissism, there is a hierarchy of this supply. So, there's the good food, there's, that prime rib of beef or whatever, there's the grade A, and then there's, like the scraps of food or whatever. So, like the prime rib or the good food or whatever is the adulation. It's, and so if you want something, you might want to give them some adulation. So you might want to say something like, if you want them to get, do the QuickBooks or something,
Mhm.
hey, can you do the QuickBooks? You are so much better at it than I am. You are way better at math and figures, and you'll get it done so much faster. I'm terrible with that. And then you beef up their ego. They'll like want to do it. Yeah, you're right. I am so much better at it. They get motivated, they'll get it done. You get something you want, and everybody's happy.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people think, oh, but I hate them. And now you're playing into their ego, blah, blah, blah. Well, but if you want them to do something, then you've got to like think about what it is that's going to motivate them, right?
Yes, you may have you may be in a situation people say, well, manipulate's a strong word. Oftentimes manipulating somebody to do things for their own good. I've had to manipulate family members of mine to go see a doctor, and then they found out they had cancer. Thank God I had the ability to put the words together, the emotions together to persuade them to go do something for their own benefit. So you may not be able to escape some of these situations that you're in. And so these are things that are important. You do need to learn how to do them.
Everybody's going to be hanging on their seat today for what? The one simple thing that's going to be guaranteed to defeat that narcissist. Well, let's talk about the things that we think will defeat narcissists, right? Because everybody talks about the things that they think. Boundaries, of course, they hate boundaries. They want to maintain their sense of control, of course, because that is the one thing that they go after from the beginning through their love bombing, which, of course, love bombing has nothing to do with love. You know that everything that they do is a manipulation. I mean, let's talk about, first of all, what is going on with the narcissist, because this leads up to that one simple thing that is guaranteed to defeat that narcissist. You got to understand how a narcissist thinks. You got to understand what's going on inside of them. And this is really, really important because I do teach you how to strategically deal with narcissists. I teach you how to negotiate with them. I want you to have real resources. I want you to understand how to communicate with them in a powerful way. I want you to understand how to be able to stand in your power that is the most important thing. I mean, this is not just about what to say to that narcissist in your life. You understand that, right? This is all a psychological game, all of this. What they're doing with you is psychological. What you have to do back is psychological. You get that, right? All of this is all psychological. The way they handle you is psychological. So the way you have to handle them back is psychological also. You're going to do it in a much, much smarter way. The thing about narcissists is they're one-trick ponies. They're not actually very smart about the way they handle things. And the reason why is because they're actually very, very fear-based beings. Everything they do is on a house of cards. They're very worried about being exposed all the time. And if you are constantly hiding something, you're constantly worried about being exposed all the time, somebody's always got leverage over you. Somebody's always got a way to be able to poke at you. The person who has nothing to fear, the person who's got nothing to hide, the person who's ready to walk away, that person always has more leverage. Always. The narcissist always has something to fear, always has something to hide because they've got this fear in them. They're very afraid of being abandoned, and they're always very afraid of being exposed. The person on the other side, even though they've constantly are working their wiles to try to make you think that, they're the more in control and the more powerful one, is really a racket. It's really a scam that they're running. The fact of the matter is, even if you're dealing with, a bazillionaire person who's got all their minions and kingdom around them, if you're dealing with a true narcissist, their power is fleeting. It's not authentic because inside they feel fragile. You're dealing with a very, very fragile being. The true person who has power, real authentic power, the person who truly stands in who they are, is far more powerful and vibrates at a far higher level of power than the person over there who's low vibration all the time. I can just tell you that that's what you're dealing with when you're dealing with a narcissist. It's a true house of cards. It's constant fragility. Going back to the question here, the one true thing that can defeat a narcissist, yes, it is boundaries, and yes, it is leverage. And yes, it is, my whole slay methodology, strategy, leverage, anticipating, and focusing on you and your power and your mindset and all of those things, 100% all of those things in my slay program, because you can always use all of those things against them. How they lie, how they exposing them potentially, all the different forms of narcissistic supply. I teach you all that stuff in my slay program, by the way. By the way, if you're dealing with a narcissist and you want a free copy of my Crush My Negotiation Prep worksheet to get you started, go to crushmydeal.com and get my free ebook. It's 15 pages. Get it and get started with your negotiations. It will help you tremendously. Okay, so go get that and get started. And if you need support, by the way, go to my Facebook group, Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung. That will help you too. You have a huge support group in there, which will help you tremendously. But the one true simple thing that will definitely defeat the narcissist is themselves. First of all, they will take themselves down to take you down. They will, because they're emotionally not regulated. Because they're emotionally not regulated, they will often go berserk and crazy. You can bait them into doing things. They will lie about everything, and all of their lies end up being great leverage. They have always these opportunities for potential exposure, which, and I don't mean in a blackmail sense. I mean in the sense that there's always some kind of somebody that they don't want their things known about. And I just mean in a way that is completely legal, completely above board, things that you can use if you're in a legal sense, things that you can do in the legal system or in a negotiation sense, ways that you can ethically manipulate the manipulator. It's always themselves that takes themselves down. Their ego gets the best of them. I mean, you can look at many examples in history where that happens. I know it doesn't seem like it when you're dealing with them, but if you look at ways to create that strategy, it always is the case. That's how it goes. It seems like every celebrity has access to GLP-1s these days, but what about the rest of us? Now you don't need to be rich or famous to access personalized, tailored weight loss solutions just for you. Through Hers, you can take control of your health. Hers is changing women's healthcare by providing access to holistic weight loss solutions, including GLP-1 treatments with the same active ingredients as Ozempic and Wegovy, oral medication kits, and more. You'll connect with a medical provider who will develop a plan based on your needs. And if prescribed, your medication is included as part of a doctor-designed weight loss program, complete with ongoing care, online support, all at no additional cost. Plans start at just $199 a month with a 12-month subscription, paid up front, and your treatment ships directly to your door. So if you've been struggling with weight loss and you want to find the right solution just for you, start your free online visit today at forhers.com/negotiate. That's forhers.com/negotiate for your personalized weight loss treatment options. Hers is not available everywhere. Compounded programs are not FDA approved or verified for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required, restrictions apply. Wegovy and Ozempic are not compounded. Okay, so let's talk about ways to trick narcissists. It seems like they're always trying to trick us. And frankly, we're becoming overrun with them. I keep hearing varying statistics about how many narcissists there are in the world. I've heard statistics that it was 1 in 10. Then I've also heard 16%. And, it could be just that they're not actually diagnosed as a narcissist. It could be just that, they have narcissistic traits or tendencies or something like that. I mean, I kind of tend to look at it as a continuum. Like there are people who are just one big heart and only care about other people. And then there's, sort of it goes along and there's a little bit more of each side. And then you get to the other end of the spectrum where the narcissist is the person who has no inner sense of value. They have no ability to have any care or concern or empathy for other people because they live in this world of scarcity. They just believe that, if you have something, then I can't have something. And I do want to make sure I differentiate. It's not just somebody who says something good about themselves or happens to be bragging or something like that. That doesn't make a person a narcissist. You've got to remember the other part of the equation, which is the person doesn't have the ability to care for others. And a lot of times you can't really tell that unless you get to know them or you get to know what's going on in their personal lives, because sometimes people can seem to be like the nicest people on the planet. And I mean, covert narcissists are super good at that. And if you want to know more about covert narcissists, you should definitely check out my video on covert narcissism in relationships. And also, I have one called The Covert Passive Aggressive Narcissist, based on a book that I had read, which totally opened my eyes. And I realized I was dealing with 2 covert narcissists in my own life, not as a husband, but one in a business situation and the other one as part of our extended family. And both of them caused so much drama, trauma, and chaos, and so much headache for me that it's very confusing. You wonder what the hell is going on. And then once you start to read about it, learn about it, watch videos like this one, you start to realize, oh my God, like this is what's happening. This is what this person is. Just remember that that's what a narcissist actually is. So how do you go about tricking them? Well, they're constantly trying to manipulate you, right? They're constantly trying to trick you. They're constantly, lying and projecting. And if you want to know more about what happens when narcissists get caught in a lie, by the way, definitely check out my video on that topic. But I mean, it's just on and on and on. So you're constantly feeling like you're on the defensive, especially in negotiations. They usually get some kind of something going right out of the gate before you even realize what's been going on. I actually have a family member right now who's dealing with this. Somebody was plotting and planning, and my family member was like, I had no idea that this was going on. I thought everything was pretty good, for months and months and months, sometimes they can be plotting and planning, and you don't even realize. So, you often feel like you are on the defensive right out of the gate, and it can feel very violating. It can feel like defeating. Why should I bother? Can I even get anywhere? How can I turn this around? How do I crawl out of this hole? And all I can tell you for sure is that you definitely can. There are definitely ways to turn it around. I've helped many, many people turn it around, either as my private clients, with my law practice, or people that I've helped through private coaching, or many thousands of people who've bought my programs, or millions of people who've watched this channel. And I hear from people all day, every day, that they've used what I've taught them, and it definitely has worked. And no matter where you are right now, I've said this before, that is the jumping off point. It's never too late. You can turn it around, and you can start to trick them too. Now, the word trick can kind of sound a little bit manipulative, but basically you're dealing with a master manipulator. So you just have to learn how to, what I call, ethically manipulate the manipulator. People who are close to me know that I say that integrity is my love language. So I'm not asking you to do anything that's untoward, or that's going to feel icky, especially for you empaths out there. But it may not feel comfortable right away, because a lot of times, if especially if you're an empath, you're out there thinking, well, I just want to resolve this. Why can't we just resolve this? Why can't we just have a conversation? Because you're forgetting that you're completely on a different plane than a narcissist is. The narcissist is going for narcissistic supply at all times, and supply can look like jerking you around. It can look like intimidating you, scaring you, manipulating the process, moving the goalposts. If you're dealing with a narcissist in a legal situation, it looks like using the court system as a sword, not providing discovery that they're supposed to provide, not ignoring court orders, things like that. And so it can feel difficult to go, okay, I'm going to go on the offensive now. I'm going to actually go the other direction. But that is what you have to do in order to start to gain ground and gain that leverage. Okay, so let's talk about some of the ways that you can start tricking them. So, one of the ways that you can definitely do that is through what is often called narcissistic fluffing. I call it bartering. Basically, what you're doing is you're giving value for value. What is value to a narcissist? Value to a narcissist is getting adulation, compliments, money, all those sorts of things, right? So what you do is you give them some of what they want so that you can get a little something back of what you want as well. So you'll say something like, can you work on the QuickBooks and update the program for us? You're so much better at bookkeeping than we are, something like that. I mean, and you got to be careful. You don't want to say it with sarcasm or anything like that, but you're kind of fluffing up their ego, giving them a little bit of adulation so that you can get something back of what you want. So that's a nice little way of being able to kind of trick the narcissist into doing something that you want them to do. It's very ethical. There's nothing wrong with it, but it gives them a little something of what they want. And so you get a little something of what you want as well. So, and if this definitely sounds like something that you can do, give me an I can do this in the comments below. Okay, so the next way that you can trick the narcissist is something that I call narcissistic decoying. So basically, when you're in a negotiation situation with a narcissist, you don't want to tell them what it is that you actually want out of the negotiations, because then that's the one thing that they're going to want to make sure that you definitely do not get, right? So and if they think that you don't want something, then they're not going to care about that. So you kind of have to do a little bit of decoying and just act like there's something that's really, really important to you that you don't care about as much, or vice versa, and act like you don't care about the thing that you definitely do want. It's a little bit tricky sometimes to do that, but if you can pull it off, it will definitely work for you, because at the end of the day, you can, do your best acting job and act like, oh my God, I can't believe I had to give up that thing. And it was a thing that you had already decided you wanted to give up anyway. So I call that narcissistic decoying. It's a really easy way that you can also trick the narcissist. The last thing that I would say to you in tricking them is definitely do not let on when you are on to them. When a narcissist knows you know, which by the way, I have a video on that topic, it's they start acting a little bit funny. They either start hoovering, they start coming back to you, or they start uh, being worse than ever. They start having one of their narcissistic tantrums. The narcissistic rage comes flying out. So I would say definitely don't let on when you are on to them. And if you have great leverage, this is sort of like the next one, but it kind of relates back to the last one. When you have your leverage, do not give it away too early. You want to make sure that you use it at the most opportune time. You don't want to drip it out, because then they start figuring out how to combat it, how to get around it. You want to use it all at once, and you want to use it at the most opportune time. So I talk a lot more about that in some of my other videos, as well as in my Slay program. Hey there, I'm Rebecca Zung, and I'm an attorney, and I help people negotiate with narcissists. And if you want a narcissist respect, I'm going to give you 8 ways to get it. But there are things that you've got to stop doing if you want a narcissist respect. Number 1, you've got to stop doing things for them that they can easily do for themselves. You've got to stop enabling them. I know that it's hard, because especially with the fear factor, if you're dealing with a narcissist, they expect things. You've been conditioned by them. If you've been in a longer term relationship with them, they have been getting a certain amount of what we call narcissistic supply from you, and they expect you to do things for them. I mean, you're kind of like sometimes like their janitor in a lot of ways. They expect you to be a certain person for them in this relationship. And even if you resent it, even if you don't want to do certain things for them, they kind of have set things up in a certain way. You kind of have to do certain things for them as you think. But if you enable that behavior, then they no longer respect you. You've got to stop doing things for them that they can easily do for themselves. What happens with narcissists a lot of times is that everything is kind of optional for them, and you don't get that. You don't get everything is optional for you, but everything is kind of optional for them. You've got to stop that if you want them to respect you. And they respect people that they have to, kind of work for. You've got to stop doing things for them that they can easily do for themselves. Let them know, no, I'm not doing that anymore. You have to do that. You have the ability. So stop enabling them. So that's number 1. And I'm going to give you 7 more. And as we work up, it's going to get even harder and harder. You're kind of like dealing with a toddler. You know how with toddlers, they have tantrums, and with toddlers, they have to feel like they have to scream louder, scream longer. and they're kind of like giving the parents sort of the side eye as they're screaming, going, are they watching? Are they watching? Because if they're watching, they're seeing if they're going to get that thing that they want as they have the tantrum. Maybe I just need to kick my legs this time. Maybe I just need to throw things this time, a little bit more of a tantrum. That's what's happening. But if they don't get what they want, then they actually start to respect the parents. That's what you're doing. Okay. Stop doing things for them that they can easily do for themselves. That's number one. Number two is you've got to stop seeking validation from them. Stop putting yourself down. Stop going, oh, yeah, I'm not very good at that. I know I'm not really all that smart, or stop caring what they think of you. Stop looking for their opinion on things. Just go, you know what? I can do things on my own. I don't need your validation. I don't need you to believe in me. I don't need you to think that what I'm doing is a good idea. I don't need you to think that I'm smart or I'm attractive or that I am good at what I do. A lot of times I've seen women, especially, want to start a business or start something new or, whatever it is. And, whoever it is that's their significant other will say, oh, that's a stupid idea, or you're not very good at that. And, in fact, I actually was just having a conversation with somebody recently who just said to me that, she had been an actress or something like that. And her significant other said, you're not a very good actress. But, here's something that's interesting. She ended up becoming a writer instead because this person said to her, you're not a very good actress. So she ended up doing writing and she ended up winning all sorts of awards because this person said that she wasn't a good actress and she ended up becoming an amazing writer and winning all these awards. But you know what? She kind of got the better of him. But she really needed to just not listen to the guy anyway, because here's the thing. People only treat people the way they feel about themselves, and narcissists don't like themselves, and that's why they treat people poorly. If somebody feels good about themselves, then they treat people well. If somebody feels poorly about themselves, then they treat people poorly, so you can't take it personally. So stop seeking validation from them. Stop putting yourself down. Stop caring what narcissists think about you. They actually respect people who don't care what they think about them. Okay. So if you want the narcissist respect, stop thinking what they care about you. By the way, if you're trying to negotiate with a narcissist, they're not going to want to negotiate or communicate or whatever with somebody who's like constantly putting themselves down. They're going to want to try to negotiate with somebody that they respect. So the more you start laying this foundation now, better it's going to be for you as you go through this process. And by the way, I do have a free negotiation worksheet for you at crushmydeal.com, which you should definitely get. So it's a free 15-page ebook, and it will definitely help you. And I upload brand new videos here on this channel every single day. And you should definitely subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell if you haven't done that already too. All right. So the other thing that you should do, the next thing, the third thing, and we've got 8 things here for you, is stop trying to be someone that you're not. One of the things that scares a narcissist more than anything is authenticity, because they are so fake all the time that you being an authentic person is, something that really throws them off. They don't know how to deal with that. They don't know how to deal with authenticity, genuineness, you being who you are, you standing up for yourself, you respecting yourself, you loving yourself. Those are all qualities that they don't have. And, they feel empty inside. So you being who you are, standing in your power, is something that they will totally respect. So stop trying to be someone that you're not. Number 4, stop making excuses for their bad behavior. Just stop doing that, because you are actually ignoring their red flags. Then you're actually defending their red flags when you do that. So stop making excuses for their bad behavior. Stop defending them to others. When you say things to other people like they had a bad childhood, they had a stressful week, they've had a stressful year, they are just making fun of me because that's, a joke that we have between each other. It's okay if they put me down, because that's our joke. That's not okay. Stop making excuses for their bad behavior, because that doesn't make them respect you. That allows them a pass for their disrespectful behavior. Number 5, stop trying to control them. Leave them be. They're never going to be controlled. So you need to stop trying to control them. You need to control yourself. You need to leave them on their path. Don't allow them to control you, but you also need to stop trying to control them. You need to be in your path, in your world, and be independent, because that will allow you the freedom to start shifting that dynamic, right? Step 1, don't run. Step 2, make a U-turn. Step 3, break free. That's what I say all the time, right? If you're going to start pivoting, you're going to start shifting that dynamic. You want to start being on the offensive. You want to start to slay, which is my slay methodology: strategy, leverage, anticipate, and focus on you. Then that's what you have to do. All right. All right. Number 6, stop letting them manipulate you emotionally, which is stop taking that bait. Stop taking everything they say or do personally. As I said, people who hurt people who are hurt people. So when you say things like they make me feel bad, you are making yourself out to be a victim, because you are in that space of allowing them that power to say they get to dictate how I feel, and don't give them that power. Okay. Number 7, stop giving them your time and your energy if they're not worth it, because they're not. Don't try to change them. Don't say that, you can love them back to health, or you can, you don't need so much love. I've actually heard people say that, I didn't get that much love as a child, so I don't need that much anyway. And I have all the love to give, and I will be able to give them everything. You are going to just end up depleted. What happens with narcissists is they have this black hole inside of them. It can never be filled. They're like starving, gasping for breath, desperate for air. It's scarcity mentality to the extreme. And they're in survival mode all the time. And they have this black hole that can never be filled, and they want you to fill it. And while you might want to fill it too, it can never be filled. And so you're left feeling totally and utterly depleted, yet they're still starving. And so you're just exhausted mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And they're just like energy vampires, soul vampires, and it's not worth it. You'll never, ever, ever be able to satisfy that, and you'll never, ever, ever have your needs met. Ever. And you're so much worth so much more than that. And your soul knows it too. And it's in there screaming to get out. So number 8 is, if you really want a narcissist respect, this is going to be the hardest thing to do, but it's the most important. This is the most important step. You've got to walk away and never look back. So I want you to put in the comments right now, just walk away. Just walk away. I'll admit it, I'm that person. I'm the one the night before a birthday, an anniversary, or any kind of special occasion, I'm frantically searching the aisles for the right card and one that doesn't seem kind of corny or cringeworthy. You know the struggle, right? But then I found Moonpig. It's a total game changer. They have tons of adorable, funny, even heartfelt designs ready to go, and you can even personalize them, which is super cool. You can even upload your favorite photos or tweak the text to make it uniquely you. And they'll even suggest clever messages if you're feeling stuck. Oh, and no more forgetting birthdays or scrambling for addresses. Moonpig lets you save everything in one place and even sends you reminders. Plus, they've got the opportunity to upload gift cards from all your favorite places like Sephora or Starbucks, so you can really nail that perfect gift vibe. Once you've designed your card, they'll even mail it for you, or if you want to hand deliver it, they'll send it to you with a cool envelope. So guess what? This is your chance. Your first card is totally free. Just use the code FREE and go to moonpig.com/US/negotiate. Seriously, stop stressing and start impressing. Make someone's day with Moonpig. Try it right now. I'm going to give you 6 tactics, six simple ways to shut narcissists down so that you can stop having to deal with them. Finally, defend yourself against that crazy narcissistic manipulation. So, number 1 is know the type of narcissist that you are dealing with. Are you dealing with a covert narcissist? Are you dealing with a grandiose narcissist? Are you dealing with a malignant narcissist? So, this is where you have to do some education. You have to do some research, learn about this. This is why you're here, right? This is, the very first step in figuring all of this out is starting to realize, hey, it's not you. It's not something that is wrong with you, and not taking it personally. One of my very favorite books on the planet is The 4 Agreements. I absolutely love this book. And it's a very simple book. It's a book that you can read in an afternoon. It's really small, and it's 4 agreements that you keep with yourself. And one of the agreements is never to take anything personally, because the way people treat other people is a direct reflection of the way they feel about themselves, good or bad, right? And that means that if people feel good about themselves, they treat people well. And if they feel bad about themselves, then they treat people poorly. And deep down, narcissists don't feel good about themselves. They hate themselves deep down inside. And that's why they treat people poorly. So, you can't take anything that they do personally. And that's why, the very first layer of this is education. And that's what you're doing now. And you're realizing, hey, it's not you, it's them. And so you're going to realize, okay, number 1, I'm dealing with a narcissist. Number 2, what kind of narcissist am I dealing with? So determine the type of narcissist that you are dealing with. And I have videos on all of this. So if you're, trying to figure out, is it a covert? Is it a grandiose? Is it a malignant? Go and check out my videos on all of those things and try to figure out, what kind of narcissist is it that you're dealing with? Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2 is be aware of the tactics that they use. All right. And this is all part of my SLAY methodology, by the way. When you're developing a strategy, when you're developing your leverage, when you're anticipating what they're going to do and being 2 steps ahead of them, and focusing on you and your offensive strategy and your mindset, the very first piece is strategy. And in developing your strategy, you've got to know what kind of narcissist it is that you're dealing with, figuring out what tactics to use, right? So be aware of the tactics that each one of them uses. Coverts act differently than grandiose narcissists, and they act differently than malignant narcissists. Each one is slightly different, because covert narcissists want to be under the radar. They want to look like they're the victim, right? They present differently than a grandiose narcissist. Malignants are, in a way, kind of like not the smartest ones, because they're the ones that'll be out there stalking you and, being violent. And, in a way, that's not the smartest thing to do. The coverts are the ones that'll be like, oh my goodness, I'm the humanitarian. I will take care of everybody. But under the radar, they're the ones that are death by a thousand cuts. I mean, I think they're the stealthiest and in some ways the smartest of all of them, because everyone else will think that they're a victim, and you know darn well that they're not. So I think coverts are the worst ones. Anyway, I digress. Be aware of the tactics they use. That's number 2. Number 3, distance yourself from that narcissist. Distance yourself, create boundaries. They've been conditioning you from that beginning. You've got to start distancing yourself. You've got to start creating boundaries. You've got to start saying, I'm drawing a line in the sand and I'm no longer taking this. I'm now saying you have to treat me with respect. And I'm now saying there's a new game in town. I always say step 1, don't run. Step 2, make a U-turn. Step 3, break free, right? In order for you to shift that dynamic and turn things around, you have to start with distancing yourself and creating boundaries. It's never going to change unless you make a change. You keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you're getting, right? That whole definition of insanity. So you've got to distance yourself. You've got to put boundaries in place. You've got to start making a change. So that's number 3. Number 4, start documenting everything, recording everything, writing things down. If it's an email, you're saving. If it's a text, you can screenshot it. If it's voicemail, make sure you save it. Do not delete. Everything gets saved. Everything gets documented. If they are late for something, you write it down. Make sure that you are keeping track of absolutely everything. They will make mistakes. They will trip up. They will lie. They will give you plenty of ammunition, but you've got to make sure that you have kept track of it and start organizing it, because that's how you're going to get them. My Slay program will show you how to do that. You've got to start getting yourself prepared for it. And you can do this. And I want you to put that in the comments. I can do this. All right. But you absolutely have to get started. That's number 4. Number 5 is do not engage. Do not engage with them, because they're going to try to bait you. Engage with them as minimally as you absolutely have to. Very, very brief, very, very brief interactions, or as minimally as possible, because emotionally they're going to try to bait you. They know that's your Achilles heel. They're going to say whatever they absolutely can. If it's something with the kids, whatever they know is your emotional Achilles heel, they're going right for that. So if you're a deadbeat dad, you're a horrible mom, you're terrible at your job, you suck at this, whatever it is, so that they can get you to respond, get you to be defensive, that's where they're going to go, because they know that you'll respond then. So don't take the bait. Don't go there. Don't allow them to get you into that space, because then you will be both sucked in. They're going to take you into that quicksand. Don't allow it. And then finally, the last one is set personal limits. Decide for yourself what your limits are going to be with them, and then do not cross those. I always say with negotiation, what's negotiable? Issues are negotiable. Terms in a contract are negotiable. What's not negotiable? Your self esteem, your self respect. Those things are not negotiable. They're never negotiable. And so when they start to make it personal, when they start to say things to you that are personal, putting you down, speaking to you in a manner that's not respectful, yelling at you, being denigrating, you do not have to stay there. You don't have to have a conversation. You have the right to say, I'm terminating this conversation until we can cool it down, until it can be a one that can be respectful on both sides. You absolutely have the right to do that. Those are 6 simple ways to shut them down, to defend yourself against narcissistic manipulation of any kind, no matter where you are in a relationship with a narcissist, whether it's your mother, father, sister, brother, neighbor, friend, coworker, boss, whoever it is. You have the right to have self respect as a human being in a relationship with a narcissist, period. End of story. Zero tolerance policy. All right. So 20 truths that a narcissist will hide from you and what that narcissist does not want you to know. And you need to watch all the way till the end because I'm going to give you the best one at the end. Okay. I've seen it all. They definitely want to hide, number one, the fact that they have 2 selves going on. They have this false self and then they have a true self. The true self is the one that they really want to hide from you. The false self is the one that they show the world. They were traumatized as a child, and this happened pretty frequently at some point during their development as a child, somehow, some way. And as a survival mechanism, they developed this way of being where they kind of had to create this pretend self, the false self, the one that they threw out there into the world as the one that they wished that they were. Because the true self, the one that's in there, the scared little one, is the one that they think is the one that they hate, the one that they're constantly trying to cover up, the one that they think is weak. And so they've got these 2 selves that are constantly going on, and they really want to hide from you and the rest of the world that they've got this masquerade going on at all times. And so that's number 1. They've got 2 selves going on at all times. And so number 2 is that they are constantly lying. It's really a way of life for them. What's really interesting to me about narcissists is that it's a lifestyle for them. And that's something that I find very puzzling and very interesting. And a lot of times they do get away with it. And I think that that's part of the reason why they do continue to do that. And you see that in the public as well, a lot of times. And, what's interesting to me is that they just don't feel like they can tell the truth a lot of times, even when it would make their lives so much simpler or so much easier. It's very sad in a lot of ways that they just feel like they have to constantly lie. And part of the reason for that is because of what I told you in number 1, which is that they're hiding the fact that they have these 2 selves going on at all times. And so the scared little self inside is just feels like they have to cover that up. And you, empath out there, you cannot save them. You can't fix it. And I see you out there thinking, well, I could love them back to health, and you cannot. Right? It can't be fixed and it can't be changed. All right. So don't think you can. It's a black hole inside of there that can't be fixed. Number 3 is they don't want you to know about all the secrets that they're keeping, all the secrets that they're hiding from you, because there are a lot of them. When you lie that much, there's a lot of wreckage behind them that they don't want you to know about. And there's probably a lot of stuff going on presently right now that they don't want you to know about too. That's why, they keep their phone close to them at all times, and they're constantly accusing you of being the liar. They're constantly accusing you of being the one who can't be trusted. It's really a projection. Whatever they're saying about themselves or about you is really, they're talking about themselves. Always remember that. Number 4 is they don't want you to know about all the things that they've done wrong, that they're blaming either you for or other people for. It goes back to the fact that they can't take responsibility for their actions. And so they're always projecting and deflecting and lying and denying, right? And so they don't want you to know about all of those things that they've done wrong that they can't take responsibility for. So that's number 4. They don't want you to know. They don't want anybody else to know what it is that they're covering up, what it is that they're hiding as far as the things that they've done wrong. Number 5 is they don't want you to know that the reason why they treat you horribly is because they hate themselves. The way people treat other people is a direct reflection of the way they treat themselves. I always say that you can never take anything personally if somebody treats you badly, because it really is a reflection of how they feel inside. And, narcissists didn't attach themselves to you because you have so little value. They attached themselves to you because you have so much value. They want somebody who's going to build them up, make them look good. They want the good things, right? They're over there gaslighting you, devaluing you, making you feel bad. There's no way that they would stay in that or continue to be there if they didn't think that there was something to be had there. And it makes them feel more powerful to put down somebody who has more value than they do. Number 6 is they don't want you to know that they're constantly trying to one up you if they're competing with you or jealous of you, because they think that it's going to make them look better. They are looking for ways to get attention. They don't want you to know that. If they're trying to play the victim, it's because they're looking for ways to get attention. And, a lot of times there's such a lack of self awareness in there that they're not going to tell you that either. They probably don't even know that themselves. And number 7 is that they're not going to tell you that the reason why they have a hard time apologizing to you is either number 1, because they think that if they don't apologize, that somehow no one will notice, or number 2, because they think it was your fault to begin with, or number 3, because they somehow feel like if they apologize, it takes away from their very fragile sense of self in some way. And it's just a very, like, it's the survival mechanism. So, like, the only reason why they would apologize at all is if somehow they can spin it in their mind that it's a manipulation in some way. So they don't really want you to know this whole thing around apologies is this game that they play. I mean, that's why they have a hard time apologizing. And number 8 is that they don't want you to know that they're purposely punishing you because of this pain and anguish they feel inside of themselves. They're going to make you believe that you're the source of all of their problems. They want you to believe that. They want you to think that you're the source of all of their problems. By hanging it all on you, they don't have to then take responsibility for it. They're not only hiding from you, in some ways, they're hiding it from themselves. So that's number 8. And number 9 is they don't want you to know. They do not want you to know that they are deeply unhappy inside. They'll go around telling you that they are great. They are fine. They are fantastic. It's you who has the problem. Or they'd be even better if you were this, or if you'd stop bugging them, or if you didn't do this or that. It's you're the one who has the problem, or you're the one that's the source. But they're great. The truth of the matter is that they are deeply unhappy inside. They don't want you to know that. And honestly, again, they really probably don't even know that they're dealing with a lot of unhappiness and traumas and triggers inside that they don't want to have to take a look at. Truths that narcissists will hide from you, what a narcissist doesn't want you to know. The next one is that literally everything a narcissist does is meant to manipulate you. When they love bomb you, it's meant to manipulate you. When they apologize, it's meant to manipulate you. When they future fake you and say that everything's going to be great, manipulation. Everything is a manipulation. And I want you to remember that. So unfortunately, they just can't be any other way other than manipulating. So number 11 is they don't want you to know that they're like chameleons. And this started back at the love bombing stage, by the way, but it also, comes back up in a lot of other times too, which is they change their behavior to make themselves look the most appealing and the most charming and the most charismatic to whomever they need to be attractive to and appealing to in that moment. Now, obviously, we all do that to a certain extent, but again, going back to what I said in the last one, for narcissists, it's a manipulation. It's a way of being. That's number 11. They don't want you to know that that's how they are. But number 12 is they hide the fact that they are looking out for number 1 at all times. They don't care about anybody but themselves. Every display of love, care, affection, empathy is all fake. For you Seinfeld people out there, remember when Elaine was like, fake, 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 fake. That is what it is. Fake. And I want you to remember that. So I want you to put fakers in the comments right now. Fakers, fakers, fakers. It's sad, yes, but I always say you can have your feelings of wishing them well, sending them light, all of those things. But, I always say send them light, but from, over there. Have your boundaries, send them light from, over there. All right, number 13. They don't want you to know their true intentions, which is to use you for everything you got, whatever it is, to manipulate you, to go after you, especially if they're in the discard phase. You become public enemy number 1 in that situation. Because, they only see things in black and white. You're either good or bad or whatever, because that's what narcissists are like. All right. Number 14, they don't want you to know what they are truly capable of. And let me tell you, I've seen it. I was in a business relationship with a covert narcissist, seemed like the nicest person in the whole world. Everybody was like, oh, they seem so nice. Oh, I'm sure it was inadvertent. How like it goes with covert narcissists. When that mask gets whipped off, you start to see what they're truly capable of. Of course, they're going to save it for their true targets. They're not going to show the rest of the world. To the rest of the world, they stay truly nice and everything. But for you, they don't really want you to know what they're truly capable of. Number 16, they don't want you to know that they're doing the bare minimum at all times. Especially covert narcissists, they're really kind of inherently lazy. They want to be takers in this relationship, right? They don't want to have to give. They want you to give. And they certainly don't want to be reminded of anything that you gave. They want you to give as much as possible. They want to take. And then if you bring it up, oh, please. But they are trying to get away with the bare minimum in this relationship as possible. That's number 16. Number 17, they just hope to God that, as long as they are getting some kind of supply out of you, that you're just going to keep on buying that sales pitch, because as long as they're treating you badly, and if you think you're going to maybe like the light is coming to you and you're going to like move on, they're going to keep moving to quickly give you that sales pitch, future fake you or whatever, and you're going to keep buying it. That's what they hope. And so they don't want you to know that that's what they're doing. They hope that you're going to keep buying it and you're going to keep chomping at the bit, that you're going to keep, taking it. And so they don't want you to find that out. They don't want you to know that that's what they're hoping, and that you're not going to figure it out at some point. And again, I'm working up to number 20, which is going to be the best one. And so these last three are the best ones. Number 18 is you are simply a source of supply to them. And as long as you have use to them, it is of use to them to keep you around. They don't want you to know that, but that is the truth. Once you stop giving them a source of supply, then you really aren't going to be of any use. And that's when you are, boom, done. Number 19, they don't want you to know that it is literally a struggle for them every single day to survive, because it's exhausting for them to, keep up this facade, try to get supply every day, not let anybody know, be in this world constantly feeling empty, trying to get supply, keep up all of these charades. It's very exhausting for them. It's way easier to live a very authentic life. And number 20, we finally got here. Number 20. Ready? Ready for number 20? Number 20 is that they hide the fact that they are living life fearing that people are going to figure out that they are a massive fraud and that they're going to be exposed for who they really are, and that they're way more afraid of you than you are of them. And that's really where your leverage lies, by the way. Today, we are diving into a topic that is near and dear to my heart, negotiating your best life. It's the name of my podcast. It's what I live and breathe, because sometimes I really feel like the very first negotiation that you have to do is with your own self, with your own mind, for your own self-worth in the morning. When you wake up in the morning, we all sometimes feel like life isn't fair and you don't get the life that you deserve, and you feel like you get taken advantage of. And it's time to stand in your authentic power, reclaim your power, set boundaries, and negotiate for the life that you deserve. So stick around if that describes you. This is going to be a transformative ride. If you've ever felt like you're constantly being taken advantage of, whether it's in your personal relationships, your personal life, you're not alone. Maybe it's your professional life. I know I have. And I've been a lawyer for a really long time, and I teach people how to negotiate, and it still happens to me sometimes, especially I think as women, but even if you're a guy and you're watching this, it happens because, you feel like you want to be the good person. You want to be the nice person. You sometimes think, you know what? Do I speak up? Do I not? Did that just actually happen to me? It happens. So I want to explore some practical strategies that you can employ to Put an end to this pattern so that you can keep yourself empowered and stay in control of your life. Not have these leaky boundaries, I call leaky boundaries, right? I want to make sure that you have power in your hands. All right. So the first step in stopping being taken advantage of, step number one, is recognizing the signs that you might be taken advantage of. So let's walk through some common behaviors that are situations where manipulation is often occurring, from subtle guilt trips to overt exploitation. Understanding these signs is critical in breaking free from the cycle. Let's look at some real life signs that are crystal clear. First of all, somebody is trying to make you feel guilty. It's Thanksgiving. You decide you want to go to somebody else's house on Thanksgiving, and a person is saying, no, oh, I'm going to be all alone, and I guess I'll just be here by myself. That is a sign of manipulation. That is a sign that somebody's trying to make you feel guilty. You need to do what you need to do for yourself. But even in a professional situation, I just literally had a conversation with one of my dearest friends. She owns a business. One of her employees was saying, how come you're not giving me more of a raise? This person just literally got a 20% raise last year. This person was saying to her, you don't value me. Obviously, you don't think highly enough of me, trying to lay on the guilt trip. This person who I was talking to owns this company and was being made to feel guilty by this employee. That is something where she was going to be being taken advantage of because this employee is trying to make her feel guilty using guilt. I was saying to her, use a rubric. This is what it is to get a raise. You don't collapse whether or not I like you, whether or not I value you. I mean, I remember I had a situation where I had an employee who was saying the same kinds of things to me. Well, I have to use all my PTO because, my kids are sick. That's not really fair because nobody else has kids. And so they get to use their PTO for vacations. How is that my problem? Somebody is trying to make you feel guilty for something. That is a sign of manipulation. To overt exploitation, somebody's actually just using you. Somebody's literally just every single time you're around them, they are having you give them rides or having you do something for them, and there's nothing in return. My husband and I started to realize that we had some friends that every single time we were around them, they were inviting themselves over to our house. They were inviting themselves to join birthday celebrations or whatever. They were never inviting themselves or inviting us over to their house. We've literally never even seen the inside of where they live. It's just a strange situation, it's just a using kind of overt exploitation situation. Where does manipulation occur? What's a using situation? How do you break that cycle? So those are some real life examples of where you might be being used. Those are sort of innocuous in some ways, but there can be some very much more toxic situations where you can actually be being manipulated and used in a much more toxic way. Somebody's making you spend money, somebody's making you pay for a lot of things, or even much more deep than that. Before we move forward, I want to engage with you, my incredible community. You guys, drop a comment below sharing any experiences you guys have had where you might feel like you've been taken advantage of. And let's create a supportive space for each other, okay? I want you to check out my link below for some phrases to help you disarm narcissists. You can get that at disarmthenarc.com. You can use it almost like a toolkit to help you disarm narcissists. If you're dealing with a narcissist and you don't know what to say in emails and text messages, or even if you're having a conversation with a narcissist, you can use that to help you navigate conversations with narcissists. All right, so let's dive deeper into strategies to stop being taken advantage of with narcissists. The next thing that you can do is set boundaries. Set boundaries. what I basically say to do is put a invisible shield down around you, and you just basically take these baby steps. You're kind of, I say, step one, don't run. Step two, make a U-turn. Step three, break free. Because you're basically course correcting. You have to kind of almost turn the ship around 180 degrees, right? And so the first thing you do when you're setting a boundary is that step one, don't run. And you're saying, I am no longer going to be retreating. I'm going to stay in place, and I'm putting this invisible shield down around me. I'm going to start looking at you as if you are a toddler having a tantrum on the floor. And I'm going to start observing your behavior to you. Just say, I can see that you're upset. I say, pretend like you're reporting the news. And then I say, never jade, never jade. Even though I love jade, I say, never jade. You know what jade stands for? Never justify, argue, defend, or explain. So you're just going to pretend like you're reporting the news, and you just observe their behavior to them. Just the facts, just the facts. So you can just say, no, I can see that you're upset. I can see that you're angry, but we can have this conversation later. Or you can say things like, this approach is not working for me. You're just setting boundaries. Setting boundaries is a really, really powerful tool in breaking the cycle of being taken advantage of. I just think it's really, really important for you to start healing, for you to start saying, I'm taking control. It's all also like a mental thing. Like you are mentally making a choice to say, you know what, this is a line in the sand. This is today I am making a decision that this is no longer going to be the way it was yesterday. And your boundaries are your fortress. It's you transforming your relationship with this person and with yourself, and you reclaiming your power. That boundary is remains strong. And the next thing is the art of saying no. No is a really beautiful skill, and it can change your life. And really get comfortable with, it's okay if somebody is upset, because it really has nothing to do with you. Somebody else's triggers are not your responsibility. It's on them. Not everybody's going to like you. That's okay. What happens is we think that we don't want people to be mad at us, or we don't want people to be upset or whatever. But what happens is it's either going to be that we're going to be resentful and upset and angry with ourselves, or we think that we are delaying something. It doesn't end up well. It never ends up well when we try to go along to get along. It just doesn't. It always ends up worse in the long run. It just does. It's really better to just address it right away. Just get into the habit of the art of saying no. Not everybody's going to like you anyway. Your people are your people. Stop trying to make not your people your people. Learn the art of saying no. That skill will change your life, and be confident in it. Be confident in the art of saying no. It's not rejection, it's a declaration of self worth. Embrace it, and it will transform your interactions. The next one is negotiating for fairness. Negotiation is a powerful tool, and it stops you from being taken advantage of. You just say, you know what? You're stepping into what you want. You do it in integrity, and you say, this is what I want. And you do it from a place of being really agnostic. You hold people to your word, you hold people to their word, and you say, this is what we agreed upon. And then after you have a verbal agreement, make sure you always follow it up with, even if it's a text message or an email or whatever, here's what we discussed. Here's what we agreed upon. I am confirming this conversation. Please confirm that this is what we agreed on, and get them to say, yes, this is what we agreed on. That way you have it in writing, because you want to make sure that there is something that says this is what was spoken about. It's a powerful tool from stopping others from taking advantage of you.